Hello and welcome to Pens, Paint and Whiskers. In my last video I tested some Staedtler 36 double-ended fibre tip markers, and I also tested some Staedtler ballpoint pens. Unfortunately I deleted the last 10 minutes of that video accidentally and I couldn't get it back. So now in this video, probably shorter, I'm just going to draw with them and just really test them out. So I got these fibre Staedtler ballpoint pens. I got them in the works for €3 for the ballpoint pens and 15 for the fibre markers. So I think it was a good deal, especially if one is just getting into markers and they don't quite want to spend a lot on alcohol markers. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go with the flow. I'm not sure what I'm drawing, but I'm just drawing just to test them out. So we'll start with a creature anyway. A mer creature is usually my go-to when I'm testing markers, probably because I like blues and silvers and greens more so. So I'm going to draw in ballpoint pen. I'm giving them quite a long straight nose and maybe a bit of a lip and a tooth visible, and like a catfish she's going to have whiskers and a chin, more of a chin maybe, and more of a head with let's give him horns, like a little dragon mer creature, and we'll give him a brow ridge and some brow spines. You can never go wrong with a little fantasy creature like this. And we'll give him curling hair. So the idea being he's in a pond or in some kind of a pool and swimming around in it. So he's caught here like a head study. He's mid-swim. And we'll do quite long ears, because I do like my creatures with long ears. And some curls here. So he's sort of caught mid-wave or mid-movement, mid-current maybe. And here's his neck and his shoulders, and we'll give him more whiskers and high cheekbones. So there he is drawn in these ballpoint pens. They are quite they do work quite well for drawing, and I'd imagine writing is more so what they're used for. But even in drawing, I'm finding that they're not patchy or they don't stop and start, so I could do him in a few strokes very easily. I've decided I'm not necessarily going to test out every single colour in the box, but I will test out the blue range. That's probably my favourite range of colours, would be blue and purple and sometimes green. So when I'm drawing normally, I wouldn't necessarily draw anything in biro or a ballpoint pen. I draw it in pencil first, but for this test I'm just going to limit myself to my own little hole here. So these are Staedtler 36 set double-ended fibre tip pens. Unfortunately they don't name their colours, and they don't put a tone or a range or a name on the barrel, so we'll just go with it and see. I have drawn a swatch in my previous video, but unfortunately it got deleted, or unfortunately me testing them out even more got deleted, so that's why I'm making a separate video of a mer creature's head design or head study, just to see how they perform if you were to make a piece of art with them. What I'm noticing is for the big area, a bigger area than this, they might be a little bit streaky even, or this size of a nib mightn't necessarily suit a very big area. But for a mid area like his head and face here, they do work very well. And like I mentioned in my last video, they would be perfect if you're going to get into markers, or you're thinking about getting into markers, but you're not quite sure. And you don't want to spend a huge amount of money on alcohol markers because they are quite expensive. These would be perfect. Or if you want to adopt a more kind of graphic style illustration in your art pieces. I'm doing his, so I've picked my mid body range. He's going to be turquoise, and any shadows like under his neck or his ears here, or his brow or lip, is going to be my mid blue tone. As you can see, I'm working up some of his hair here. He's got quite lovely curls actually, and oh yeah, done a little bit over too much here, but that's okay. So now to blend these, as they're not alcohol, they are a little bit trickier to blend. But what I find is do it as quick as you can. So lay down your base, so the turquoise here, or your mid kind of colour range, lay it down here, and then before they dry, just try as quick as you can to go over it again in your lighter colour, and see will it blend there. A little bit, yeah, they do indeed blend a little, but on this is quite shiny paper. I should mention I'm working in a Art Gecko, I think 250 GSM heavy duty sort of sketchbook, and the paper is very shiny. I would imagine on more porous or rougher paper with more of a tooth, it would cause a little bit more issue. I have noticed these do pill a little bit, so tricky blending, I will say. Probably more illustrative, comic book style they would be more useful for. But he is working really well. I am actually very happy with these. So I'm going back and blending again. So I always think once you put down a darker layer, blend it again with the layer lightest to it. So back a range, back a colour in the lineup of light to dark. And I might make a video showing actually how I choose what colours should be lightest and darkest, if anyone would want to see. Oh, I've coloured in his lip a little bit too much, but that's okay. And this is my navy colour here, so I'm going to try with this narrow nib here. I'm going to try, because I don't want him too navy, I don't want too much shadow. But I'd imagine his darkest shadows would be under his brow ridge and where his hair sort of folds over to a kind of a curl, and in his earlobe, and maybe a little bit under his neck. So he's got a small bit of shadow there. And then I'm going to go over it once again in this, the lightest colour again, and work it in. So like I said, I am under time limit here, so I'd imagine they'd produce much brighter, much better results if I did more blending and more work with it. But just for now, for the purpose of this video, I'm just doing them as challenging myself to do something as quick as I possibly can. For his horns, I'm going to do the narrow nib gold. Oh, now that's quite patchy. Yeah, that narrow nib here, it's not the best, I will say. Oh yeah, that is very patchy. I'm going to try in the broader nib, and what do you know, that's working much better. That is much better. Wow, it's much more smoother. Okay, so I'll try a little bit of the narrow nib here, just to give it the benefit of a doubt that it's not just the one dodgy pen in the box. So the tip of his horns are going to be darker. Oh, yeah, that's not quite as good as the broader tip. So the broader tip is much better. I'm finding this narrow nib here is quite scratchy. Oh, sorry. Nudge the camera. That's much better. And I might just do a little prong here of his horn. Yeah, quite patchy. But nothing I can't work with. This is the point of the video. It's setting myself a challenge. Can I draw something substantial or a head study in the allotted amount of time? So I've given myself maybe 20 minutes to check these and show them off. Like I said, not every colour, but hopefully a range anyway. So we've went from blue to brown to, I'll give him yellow eyes like a cat. I like my mer creatures to be cat-like. So we'll see how that goes down. Yeah, that is, again, that's the narrow nib for that. So that's not actually as bad. I won't say bad really, but not as patchy or scratchy. Now trying to blend, I don't know if you can see, but there's a little bit of piling and streaking on the paper. But for a quick sketch, or if you ever wanted to experiment with colour or sketch sort of what colour you would like something to be, they are very good for that. And now I'm going to go over and try these ones. So these are my Staedtler ballpoint capped pen. So I'm going to go over them again in his outline and see what they perform like. And certainly once I've coloured the layer, there is a little bit of difficulty there. Sometimes markers can have an extra layer of they can add an extra layer of gunk even. I hate that word, but they can kind of clutter up a ballpoint nib with gunk, as we'd say. So we're giving him quite a lot of eyelashes. And yeah, so we give him his little brow spines and his cheek spines. So he is quite dragon looking as well. There we go. And that's his brow ridge and his long eyelashes. And we'll give him a pupil. Is not the best looking pupil, but we'll go with it. And his nostrils. So these ballpoint pens, they're actually quite nice to use. I have written with Staedtler before. I've never drawn with Staedtler before, but like writing with them, they are very nice. They're not patchy, they're not stopping and starting, and they seem to be having no difficulty at all going over his marker. And going over what's the layer of marker below them. So we're getting a nice even flow with these. So I would recommend these equally, not only for drawing, but for sketching. Sometimes I do sketching in ballpoint pen. I definitely will be using these to sketch in ballpoint pen, and even to outline sketches in ballpoint pen. And now, so he's outlined mostly in blue. I'm going to do his horns equally in blue. I want the overall look of him to be blue and green. So now, there we go. He's roughly outlined and roughly tested. He's got quite a hairy chin. Lots and lots of barbels on him. We'll give him another little downturn here and more shadow in his lip, and maybe some more shadow over his eye here, and more emphasis on his cheeks. So there he is, and he's made using only Staedtler. These fibre, double tip fibre markers, very good. Very good for a budget range of colours, and if you ever want to sketch out or test what colours you would like a piece to work in, these would be great. And as you can see, they have dried and he's not as streaky as he started off. But sometimes streaks and stripes can be very nice. That could be coloration on him, on a living creature. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sketch in little fish with them. My fish shoal is not very detailed, but a tip for when you're drawing with mer people. Sometimes little dots and dashes like this can really add to it. They can be a little fish shoal. So he's got his little fish shoal there. And I might give him some gold stars or green stars even with my other marker or my other ballpoint pens out of the pack. So this is a Staedtler capped ballpoint pen, and why not give him some stars, some lilac stars there, and I might even give him some scales. So I'll have to be careful, actually he's smudging a little bit on my finger, but that's okay. So we'll try these click pens here. So these are Staedtler, €3 again. These had no cap, but they are click. So we'll give him some pinkish scales on his neck. See how these work over markers. Yeah, very smooth. Very nice. So like I said, I'll be writing with these as well and also sketching with them. So we'll give him some scales. And normally I would highlight these scales with a white pen, but I'm not going to use the white pen. I'm just going to use only my Staedtlers from the art hole. And he has worked beautifully. So that's a sketch done in Staedtler Fibre Tip 36 set pens, and he's drawn in the ballpoint pen. So he worked beautifully. And like I said, even his scales came up very well. And when I went over him again in the ballpoint pen, I should say, very good. Now he did smudge a little bit, but that's okay. And even his eye came out well, so yellow on blue. And his horns too, so tiny little bit of piling there, but that's okay. I would recommend. They are very, very good for a budget set of markers, €15. And if you just want to get into markers as a whole and you're not quite sure whether they're for you or not, they're excellent. Thank you very much for listening and watching.